Hello, I'm Faye Waterman and this is Talking All Things Business, and today my guest is Pooja Kelka. And Pooja is the founder and director of ReAline U. She's a coach, a facilitator and an author. Pooja is passionate and organised and focused. Her mission is recognising the hidden potential in her clients from small businesses in the field of healthcare, education and legal services, and helping them see it. Pooja is all about guiding them toward their vision and setting the goals that can take them there. She speaks 5 languages, 3 Indian languages, English and French. Now, Pooja, welcome and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Faye. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, Pooja, you speak 5 languages, 3 Indian and 2 other, English and French.
Yes.
What's your favourite language?
Oh, I absolutely am in love with French. That's my favorite language. And the biggest reason being is that it's so beautiful. It turns in a way that makes you feel so attracted towards it. Not only that, I love the literature that comes out of that country. Classic or modern, both. It's just brilliant.
My favourite language is French. It is my most favourite language, French. All my friends learn other languages, but I'm thinking, no, French is mine, and that's it's a beautiful language. Yeah. What inspired you to actually want to learn French in the first instant?
Well, for me, more than inspiration, it was more like the need of the hour. So if you study in any schools in India, you have to learn the local language. And when I went, I had to move states. And when I went to the state that I learned French in, the local language was never something that I had ever learned. And if you know India, every language is different. And to start at the stage at which I had moved would have been really hard. So the next option was to learn French, which was only beginning out. So I really didn't have an option. I had to just choose French and go with it. But when I picked it up, I fell in love with the language and I decided to continue studying it further. So I took it into university, and then when I came to Australia, I did postgraduate diploma in French as my major language as well. So just love the language.
And you've taught in it too, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
The language?
Yes, I have taught. Well, teaching that language can be really challenging, especially if someone does not have even English as their language of instruction or anything like that. If somebody learned a European language, they can possibly be able to understand where French comes from. But teaching someone who may not have even English as a strong language, teaching French becomes even more of a challenge. However, language is my forte and I absolutely have loved teaching it. And the way we taught and the way I was taught to teach the language was in the language. So there was never any translation. We just had to teach the language with the language. So the idea was the more you listen to it, the more you'll pick it up. So that's how,
That's interesting. Yeah. So not saying the English version of it. You were speaking the language, so you had no choice but to pick it up. And what a great way to learn a language.
Yeah.
You swim.
That's right. Because then, as a teacher, you become you're not only a teacher. You just become an actor, an amazing artist. You can mime, because that's the only way you can convey what you're trying to say in a language that's foreign. And unless you do that, the person who's learning it will not know what you're saying. So that's where you have your hand actions come in, where your facial expressions come in, and then you learn how to draw. So all of that comes through.
Okay, and it would be your body language as well, wouldn't it?
Yes.
That'd be a big part of it. That is is within how you move the body to express the language.
That's right.
So what a beautiful way to learn it.
Yeah.
You're inspiring me. Pooja, you are not Australian. You've been in Australia for how long?
Well, my journey in Australia started in 2003 when I joined my husband here, who was a student at the time, and we got married back in India, and I moved here with him. So Australia was not really my choice of country, but it was made for me. But I don't regret 1 minute of it, because I have absolutely fallen in love with the country, because it's a land of opportunity in the real sense of the term. And then I had my children here, both my children here, and then for family reasons in 2009, I had to go back for 4 years. But that's when the real comparison began, because I knew better. I loved this country and what I had become in this country. Although India will always remain my mother country, but where you grow up and where you grow as a person is something that will always attract you. So coming back was a no-brainer. I had to come back and continue and pursue in what I love to do.
Yes, I mean, the country of your birth is special to you.
Yes.
But you can live anywhere in the world and have an appreciation for where you choose to live.
That's right. And
you can make comparisons. And the comparisons can be similar or they can be totally different. But your motherland is inside your heart, and it always
Yes, it is.
And when you came to Australia and you had your children here, and was it that you fitted in when you came to Australia, or did you feel like you didn't fit in at first?
Well, for me, so I'll give you a little bit of the background. I've never grown up in one place, even in India. So I've always constantly moved. So somewhere to be able to adapt to different cultures and to different languages and to different environments was something that I had picked up as a child. So for me to adapt to a new country was not really that hard, because I made connections really quickly. I picked up the way of working really quickly. The only thing that I found hard to do when I came here was to find employment, anything fruitful to keep me employed. Probably that was the hardest bit. And if you mean by integrating, that was the only hard part of being able to integrate in the society. But once I found a job and something that was challenging enough for me, it was not hard anymore. And also because in the job, then I made new connections, I made new people, started picking up on how things work in the country, and it was really not that difficult for me. But I'm aware that lots of people who come here find it really hard to integrate.
Yes, and that's why I asked you that question, because sometimes some people feel like they don't fit in, and they struggle with that for a long time before they actually start to. So you were very fortunate in that way.
Yes, I was. Also because my husband was here for almost 7 years before I even came here. So he knew the ways of the land. And he could guide me and he could support me wherever I fell short. So I had a support system around me which was much more stronger than most people are fortunate enough to have. So yeah,
absolutely. And that's an important thing too, isn't it, when you've got that support behind you to be able to pick you up when you're feeling a little bit not so, whatever that may be. Now, Pooja, when you were in India and you said you travelled a lot, what was the reason for you travelling so much?
My father always had a freelance kind of a business. So we would move wherever his next business project used to take us and live there for almost 4 or 5 years and then pack up and leave again.
Really?
Well, I'm born in Mumbai, but my schooling was in Delhi, and then for my college, then I had to come near Mumbai again. So, if you want to ask me, the longest I have lived is where my parents live now. So that's a town called Pune near Mumbai, which is about 200 km from Mumbai.
Right.
So that's probably the place that I have lived longest, and probably only my adulthood has gone in that particular state.
Right. How did your mum cope with the moving all the time?
It was hard on her. But well, it's again something that she just had to do. I don't think she had much of a choice, really. She was also a homemaker. She never had a career of her own. So while the actual physical move was hard for her career-wise, there was nothing that was keeping her in one place anyway. So yeah, I think we just learned to cope and adapt.
And moving around probably isn't that bad. I mean, the packing up and the unpacking, that's the sort of thing that turns you on. But actually going from one place to another and discovering new things is quite exciting, isn't it?
It is. It is. It comes with both pros and cons. And I was just talking to my friend the other day about it. While moving has its pros and cons, teaches you how to adapt, teaches you how to appreciate differences in people, teaches you new ways of living, new ways of doing things, new languages even. It, however, does not give you a root. So if you really asked me where I am from in India, I really don't have a strong answer because I really don't know where my roots are. So while it's a good thing, it's not always a good thing either.
Yes.
Because you don't build those connections, you don't build those friendships that come from living in one place. So if you ask me if I have friends from my childhood, I did have friends in my childhood, but they haven't stuck with me all these years. So that is something that you don't get.
Yes, that's the hard part, because you'd make friends for a period of time and you'd move away, and you know the connection and the communication as you were growing up wouldn't be like it is today. So
no.
You would lose connection with them, lose contact with them.
Yes.
And that's a really interesting thing. I suppose these days you could go back and research and find if you really wanted to.
Yes.
But that just depends on whether you want to or not.
Yes.
That would create a curiosity with me.
Yeah.
Now, you came to Australia, you settled in, you fitted in well, you played around with your French, and I'm going to say play because that's how you enjoy teaching it and being creative with it, so that the expression and the realness of the language came out when you were teaching it.
Yeah.
So then after you stopped teaching, what was it that you wanted to do or you chose to do?
Again, when I came to Australia, being a teacher here meant that I would have had to go through education all over again. And that was not something that at the time I was prepared to do, because I had young children, and the need of the hour was to find a job and make ends meet with 2 children. So I got into an employment that was going to help me do that, although part-time. And I started working with Westpac and eventually with Bupa as well.
Right, okay.
But my heart was really, while I did those jobs really well, and I still have connections from those times, but when I really dig deep, there was no emotion in those jobs. It was not emotionally connecting.
I suppose because you were emotionally connected with your teaching, and you weren't doing that, and you came here and you needed to pick something up so that you could earn to live.
Yes.
And so you just do what you do. But then you've now decided to do something that you are very passionate about.
Yes.
Let's talk about that and why you're passionate about it.
Well, as a teacher of language, or as somebody who has always been able to understand where the students are, from proficiency point of view. So sometimes you do get beginners who are completely new and they're completely blank. So the jobs that I really did, obviously they when I was never emotionally connected to them. And during those jobs, I did what I did, and I did what I needed to at the time to support the family and to support the financial needs of the hour. But while doing those jobs, I also found that I had an immense connection with people around me, and somehow I had the ability to understand them and read them and understand where they come from, because I was sometimes able to give them good feedback, sometimes able to tell them what or advise them a little bit or suggest what they could do to get where they wanted to. And then I kind of tried to assess myself and see where that ability comes from. And most of the times that ability comes from the fact that when you're teaching a language, you're able to read where the students stand and what it is that they are getting stuck at and what it is that I can do to help them come unstuck or move forward, and where do they need a gentle nudge. So that's where I found that that's exactly what I want to be doing going forward.
So that's where the coaching came in. And
Yes.
How did you come up with the name ReAline?
Well, that came with a bit of a self-assessment as well, because when you come from a highly patriarchal society that I have come from, where the roles of women are very, very strongly defined.
Mm-hmm.
And although you are educated nowadays and although you have the ability to go and work, certain things are very, very strongly defined. My husband has been a very, very supportive person, but even then, somewhere your own belief deep down, it is ingrained from what you see around you. And sometimes it's very hard to break out of those belief systems.
Yes, because they are ingrained in you. They are your paradigms, your habits, and it is that hierarchy, I suppose, where the men who provide and do things, and the women stay at home and do the family things, the homely things, and their expectations are to advance themselves or go out to work. In your culture, when you come to Australia and you see a totally different culture of how we all work, because we're kind of all equal, or supposed to be. And so therefore, when you were working in those two career paths, you saw things that came up in you that were creating that passion for supporting and giving people some structure and strategies to do better for themselves when they were struggling. Is that where it comes from?
Yes, it does come a little bit from there. Also, it comes from me overcoming my own struggles within myself, to overcome my own belief system and my own values, and realigning myself with what I want to achieve in life. Because sometimes you get lost in whatever life deals out for you. So
in systems, I think you could say you could get lost in the systems, and that's what we said earlier about what's going on now, and taking your time with what's happening, because you then have the control over where you're going instead of going with that flow.
That's right. That's right. And I want to be able to give people who possibly or maybe sailing in the similar boat as myself at some level, to give them that ability to realign themselves to what they think they want to do in life. It's really hard to dig down deep when you have so many layers upon layers of beliefs about yourself and self-talk.
Is it what they think about themselves, or is it what they actually know, but they have a fear of actually digging deep to find that real them, that truth?
That's both. Sometimes it's what you say to yourself is quite you are not even aware of what you're saying to yourself. Sometimes that self-talk is quite subconscious or unconscious, and unless you are aware, you can't change it.
That's right. So you create that awareness for them.
Yeah.
You give them, I was going to say hope, but it's not hope. You give them something. And language is a really important part of who we
Exactly.
are. And whatever language we use gives us what we ask for. So, we might say it's a bad day today, so bad things are going to happen.
Yes.
So if we don't stop and think about what we're saying, then things just flow into those areas.
It does.
Really important to change our language to a language that is good for us.
That's right. That's right. What you think you become, because the thought comes first before the action happens. So the moment you're saying something to yourself, you're doing it subconsciously. But if you can't catch yourself thinking on those lines, you will never be able to change that thought. So, and that's an awareness that I had to build around myself as well. So every time I thought about something, I had to consciously go and change that for myself as well. To be able to then start my own business, because that's another thing. It's a massive fear of either failure or success. What if I let go of my job? What if the what ifs kill us at some stage?
They do if we continue to question them. But when you as a coach come along and someone's questioning themselves and self-doubting themselves, and you look at the language that they're actually saying they're not aware of, you're creating an awareness, you're bringing to the fore what they're actually thinking and feeling, and then taking action on, because it's not the real way that they could be doing that. So you look and bring to the fore the awareness of them being able to change what isn't working for them to something that is.
That's right. And also giving them the tools that they can use forever in their lives.
Yes.
It's not just momentary, because sometimes you can tell them or show them what to do, but if you just walk away and if that's not put into practice, or there's no accountability around that, it's even harder. If somebody is holding you accountable, like a coach does, you have to answer back. You have to talk to your coach probably once a week or once a month, whatever you have decided to do. And the coach is going to actually ask you, what did you do about that?
Yeah.
Which makes you consciously make those changes. And
it is that consciousness, when you're aware of it, that you can make those changes. And it is all about accountability. It's all about making the decision to change the things that aren't working for you, but having that accountability buddy in the background to say, you can message or say, I'm struggling with this, help please. And you're there to help them, so that then they can say, well, okay, let's just a little step forward. Sometimes we take those steps forward, but then we take a couple of steps back and we wonder, and then the awareness comes to us again, because our subconscious takes everything in that our conscious mind accepts.
Yes.
Our conscious mind can accept or reject.
Yes.
But whatever it accepts goes into our subconscious mind and has to be, suppressed for years and years, and we don't know. And there are some people out there saying, oh, well, this is my lot in life. I suppose I have to accept it.
Yes.
That's not the case.
No.
People like you coming along and having that first initial conversation, creating an awareness and working with them and giving them the strategies and the structures and making them accountable to you.
Yes.
So that they can actually make those changes.
Yes.
Seeing the progress and the changes and the life that comes back into people is rather exciting, isn't it?
Oh my God, is it ever? Is it ever? I mean, you can see the progress, you can see the light in their eyes change, you can see the positivity that comes around it, you can see that they're physically feeling good because they have been able to change their mindset. You know that if they're not feeling well physically, half of it is coming from their own minds, and when that changes, Oh my God, it's the most rewarding. It's like any teacher will be able to tell you. When you are teaching something, it's not about just teaching the subject. It's about seeing the change in your students. It's about reaching to a spot that probably nobody else could reach, or touching that part of that person's life that nobody else could really go and touch and change or affect or bring a positive light to. So that is what is the most rewarding.
And that is so true. Being a teacher, as I have been a teacher, and you pick up things that you don't normally pick up, and you watch students who will just progress on their own because they are that way inclined.
Yes.
Then you see the students who struggle, and I've often had it said to me, I wish you'd come along a long time ago, because it's really interesting. I loved working with the kids that struggled, because you could see the most results in them.
Exactly.
And they then, could move on in their life to do things that they knew had the confidence to do. So
yes, that's the thing that I have always wanted to do. Bring change in somebody's life, because we are so afraid of change as a human being. We are so inclined towards our own inertia, love to stay where we are. Although we know we can do better, we are always afraid to do better. And I have always wanted to bring that change in people. Doesn't matter if it's handful. Even if I can make that change in one person's life, that will be amazing.
But when you make that change in one person's life, there is a ripple effect.
That's right.
Once they're changed, the people close to them change too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because it affects everything in their life, right? The way they handle their relationships, the way they handle their business, the way they have their relationship with their clients, or even with themselves.
Yes.
Everything starts changing. And when that happens, their world starts changing, which makes other people sit up and notice, hey, what's happening with you now? So that's the kind of change. And then once that happens, those people might think, oh, maybe I can do that too. So that's what is the best thing out of it.
And it's inspiring. It's inspiring others to want to do better for themselves.
Yes.
Well, they may not even be friends with them, and they're noticing the changes and thinking, oh, I wonder what they're doing. I want to do some of that.
Yes.
It's really interesting to see and listen to conversations, and to have the conversations with people, and to see the changes and the excitement, because we all have that magic inside us.
Yes.
Which is a lot of the time suppressed because of the fear, the self-doubt, the self-love, the lack of all these things.
Yes.
And as a coach, you inspire them, you bring that out of them, you get them to realise the beauty that they actually have inside. That's right. And also that everybody has something to contribute in this world. Everybody has something, a spark in them that they should never ignore. It has nothing to do with their physical ability or even mental abilities or anything. It does not matter. Everybody has something to contribute that can be positive in this world. And it's a choice again, whether they want to make that contribution again or not. And I love showing it to them that you have that spark in you. Yeah.
You just have to make that choice to bring it out.
And that's right. And there's another factor to this as well, which has just come to mind, and that is that sometimes when people they say you become like the 5 people you hang around with or you surround yourself with. But if you're trying to make changes in your life and your environment is in that negative space, very difficult to make the change.
Very difficult. But on that note, it's also what you think about yourself that you start attracting similar kind of people around you. So it's like a vicious circle. If you think less of yourself, you don't think that you are worth having positive people around you, because you don't think that about yourself. So you land up being around people who are not going to contribute at all to your life, right? And then that affects your self-worth again. So it kind of keeps going round and round in circles, because those people are not helping you see the beautiful you, because you don't think you are good enough. So it kind of is all around you.
Yeah, and that can be a threat, because you're so used to fitting into an environment that you're comfortable with, but when you start making those changes and you see the environment that is out there in the big wide world, and then you're back in this environment here, there's a lot of threat going on there, and pressure from those people to say, oh, what are you doing? Do you think you're better than us? Blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
These stories going on, and if they're not strong enough to take themselves out of that, they'll stay there.
Yes, that's exactly right. And a lot of the times, adults or children or whoever get really bogged down with the peer pressure. We are always worried of non-conformity. That's another thing, right? Human beings love to conform only because you don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. Or we have this tall poppy syndrome. What if,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the tall poppy syndrome here in Australia is pretty awful.
Yeah. You don't want to start, you don't want to be different. Nobody wants to be different, because then everybody will notice. And what if they notice me? That's another thing, right? If they notice me, they won't want to be my friend.
Yeah.
So much so that even in schools, if you do well, you're put down for doing well, because nobody will want to be your friend because you're called a geek. And then that continues on in workplace as well. If you're doing well and if your boss likes you, then you're again trying to suck up to your boss, and all of that, all that negativity keeps following you, and that makes you not want to stand out, or makes you want to just follow the rules.
Yes. Fit in and conform.
That's right.
Conformity. I don't like that word, conform. I don't.
No.
I do.
No, I've never conformed, so that's another thing.
It's taking a person from a place. You take them from a place of them feeling self-doubt, not confident in themselves, to a place where they exude that magic, I suppose you could say. And I will always say magic, because I know that we all have that magic inside us. We just have to find it.
Yes.
And it's really exciting when you see someone that you're coaching come from this little wallflower into this beautiful big sunflower that glows. And doesn't that make you shine and get excited?
Oh, you have no, I mean, I have one of the clients that I'm seeing at the moment. The first time I spoke to her, she was in tears the entire hour that I spoke to her. She was crying the entire time. But now that I speak to her, she has projects and hopes and dreams and everything that she talks about. And that is so rewarding that she's come so far. And of course, the work has to come from the work is both ways, right? It's not just me. I'm just showing the path, but the person does the work. And when you see that the work has been done and the results that it gives is just brilliant.
And it is. I mean, I will say, the conduit which starts the process, and you are there to support them through the ups and the downs, get them to a place where they need to be, but they have to do the work. And if they don't do the work, there's no results.
There's no results. Everybody, and there's no bypassing hard work, really. You just have to put the work in, no matter what you want to achieve. It could be professionally, personally, whatever you want to achieve, you have to put the work in. Otherwise, there's nothing that comes out of it.
And that's a decision that they have to make.
Yes.
It's a decision, and consciousness, and it's a commitment.
Commitment. And that's again another very, very underrated word, commitment, because people will just say, I'm committed, but are they really?
Not a lot of the time.
No, mind, body, soul, you have to be committed. You have to be committed in a way that whatever you want to achieve, you can feel, touch, smell, breathe, taste even. Because unless you do that, you're not really committed to it. So that's another thing.
Yeah. And appreciate the environment. You know, you don't allow the environment to affect you. You can be aware of what's going on in your surroundings and the circumstances, but you don't need to allow it to affect you.
That's
Just
right.
be aware of it and consciously say, yeah, I know what's going on, but this, you come from inside. You don't allow the outside to come to you.
No. So there's always a circle of control that's around you. There's a circle of control that's outside of that. And things that you can't control, right? You should not even attempt to change it, because that's not within your control. But the only thing you can control is how you react towards those situations. And when you choose to react in a certain way, that's what you become.
Yes.
So if you want to react negatively, that's what you are. You're going to be pessimistic, negative. But if you think about that as an opportunity, this situation is going to give me something to learn, or add to me, or add to my knowledge, or what can I do better now? What else can I do? That makes you the positive and resilient or optimistic person that keeps moving forward.
So I'm going to ask you, Pooja, where do you see yourself in the next, because of what's going on in the world and all the uncertainty, where do you see yourself in the next 6 months? What is it that you want to achieve for you that you can then pass on to others?
What I really want to see, what I want to achieve is to be able to get my business up and running to a level where it can reach more people. It can then, I can show that by example, that does not matter what situation you are in, you can always move forward. The choice of moving forward always comes from you. So situations like COVID-19, or where you're just stuck at home, should not actually hold you back, because once in situations like this, when we can talk to people online and talk to people through things like Zoom or Team or whatever it is that you use, world becomes your oyster. The world is your, there's nothing that's limiting you. You can reach anybody, anytime. So if you really look at that as an opportunity, then you can grow, right? You can affect change. You can affect change within yourself, within the people you work with. You can pretty much do anything. And that is something I want to show my clients when I start working with them, to show that my business took off at the worst time in history.
And it is history.
It is history.
It is history. It's just nothing like this. I mean, you had the Spanish flu and things like that, but nothing has affected the globe like this has.
No.
And there are so many opportunities out there for people if they step out of that fear and that unknown into a place of opening their mind and looking at the opportunities that are out there for them, or creating the opportunities for themselves, or just reaching out to people who are potentially struggling or may need, just finding out what it is that they need and creating an opportunity that way. This particular environment has actually brought more clarity to where I wanted to go, because for a long time I was quite bogged down with actually meeting people face to face or in person. But suddenly when this broke out, I'm like, no, I can actually reach anybody anywhere now. I don't have to travel. That's saving me time, money, energy, and I can pretty much meet anyone and market myself or sell my programs, or even reach out to people anywhere in the world. Yeah.
So that opens up so many doors when you start thinking that. And that's exactly what I want to bring to my clients, that if I can do it, and if I could come out of it stronger on the other side, anybody can. It's just a matter of choice.
Beautiful. Are you going to teach French at any time?
Yes, I am. That will always be my passion. I am going to teach French soon. That's again something that's on my cards anyway. So that's my next step of planning.
Beautiful.
It will be out and it will be announced pretty soon. So that's another thing to look forward to as well.
Fabulous, because you can just continue on regardless of what's going on. As we said before, the environment, you can let it affect you, or you can move on coming from within, and that's where the magic is.
Yes, it's an amazing place to be at the moment. You can pretty much reach anyone, which is brilliant.
Yes. A couple of tips that you would give to people who are looking for a coach, if they want to coach for business or for personal. So let's give it a tip for people who are looking for a coach for personal reasons, and then a tip for people who are looking for a coach for business reasons. What would you say to them about finding themselves the right coach?
Okay, so the tip that I would give individuals is to actually ask themselves whether they are in the best place of their life at the moment and where they want to be. If the question is something that they cannot answer themselves or are struggling to answer for themselves, then they clearly need a coach, because a coach will be able to dig out those deeper wishes or dreams that you probably have dug so deep inside yourself that you are unwilling for one, or unable to bring it out and turn it into a vision for yourself. So that's one thing I would say to individuals. And for businesses, I would say that where do you want your team, how do you see your team working, or what it is that you want your business or your teams to be working towards after you are coming out of a situation like COVID-19. And if you know what but don't know how, then you need a coach, because either you have a team but you are not being able to bring them all together on board with what it is that you want the business to do, or maybe there's no cohesive attitude within the team, or there's no congruence of emotions probably around that particular goal, or you're struggling to have a buy-in from your team towards those goals. So if any of these things are something that as a business owner you are struggling to do, or even as a sole entrepreneur, if you are finding it a challenge to see where you are going in a few months' time, or the vision for you is kind of blurred a little bit because of the situation you find yourself in, that's when you need a coach, because then they'll bring you back on track, clear out any cobwebs that have been created around what you want to do.
Right. So if they want to work with you, Pooja, how do they get in contact with you?
Well, I have my website is still coming, so when that comes, that will be there. But for the moment, I have my phone number, which I'm more than happy for them to contact me. So the phone number is 0426 459 614. Or I have my email address as well, that's info@realineu.com.au. I have a Facebook page as well called Rearline You, and I have my LinkedIn profile as well. That's Pooja Kelka. So they can contact me any way they see fit.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Pooja, for sharing with me.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you. It was a beautiful conversation.
Thank you. I'm Faye Waterman. This is Talking All Things Business, and I'll be back again. Bye for now.